has exhibited in the Strictly Functional Pottery Gallery, Strictly Functional Pottery National, Charlie Cummings Gallery, Baltimore Claywork, Cedar Creek, the Clay Studio in Philadelphia, North Carolina Botanical Gardens, Sculpture Show, among other places. She's toured as part of a permanent collection of Bridges organization for math art intersections. And you talked about that last time you came, I think. Yeah. She's been in publications. This is the one I want to say. Her pieces are in 500 Basis book and the 500 Teapots book, which we probably have in our library. And Pattern Making Illustrated. Yeah. So here's Liz.
Hi, y'all. So I thought what I would do, I have some pieces over on the table over there. I'm going to talk about how I cut pottery, cut holes in it tonight. And that's something that I started doing when I had a bottle. I had made a bottle and I didn't like how it was proportioned. And can you hear me okay? Okay, I'll talk louder. I started putting holes in pots to hide in proportions that I didn't like. It turns out that when you cut holes in things, your eye looks at the holes and not at the form so much. And it turned out to be incredibly addictive. I don't know if other people, you told me earlier that you cut pottery too. It's really addictive. So I'm doing a lot of it. And I make a lot of tea light holders, bowls and plates, assorted forms. You can cut holes in anything. Sometimes things stay functional. I've had in the Cedar Creek Gallery Teapots show, I had a teapot that was cut like this too, and obviously you can't put tea in it, but you can put other things in it, like light. So what I'm showing you, I'm throwing off the hump here. What I'm doing is, this is just going to be really, really quick because I know we're behind too, so I'm not going to take a lot of time to be careful with this. But I'm basically creating a dome shape. There is nothing that you will ever make that will teach you more about how evenly you throw than something that you cut holes in from the top to the bottom. You will be surprised at the balls that you thought were even that are not even. This is doll head on a stick. Can't get it at the state fair, but you can make it yourself. It's just a dowel, and you want the dowel to be strong enough that it's not really bendy. And then you can buy beads or wooden doll heads and just use wood glue and stick those on, and it's cheaper than a throwing tool that you could buy, a throwing stick you could buy. So you're going to take your time and make your walls even and thick, evenly thin, and then cut this thing off. I always leave a chimney in my tea light holders. Once you give away or you sell your work, you have no control over what other people do with it. And anything that looks like it's going to hold a candle, you need to count. I have students who say, oh, I always put battery-powered candles in mine. People will buy them, they will be inherited or given away, whatever. Somebody is going to put a wax candle in that at some point, and someone will get burned if you're not careful with the design. So I used to make these closed all the way across the top. We were having a block dinner, some neighbors were over, and one of them said, oh, Liz makes these tea light holders. You have to be really careful because they get really hot. So she had said, I mean, it was like this.
She knew.
She knew. It was this disconnect between I know that this is going to burn me and then just facing it. So people will do that sort of thing. I teach a class at Claymakers every late fall into winter on things that we light up. And one of my students told me actually she lost a parent to a fire from an unattended candle in the bathroom, and the shower curtain caught on fire and the house burned down. So, like, do not, sorry, I'm lecturing, but you don't want to mess with this because people will do things that, smart people will do stupid things. So I always put a chimney in anything that's going to have a candle in it, there's an open top. That means, I mean, nobody's going to pick this up. If it has a hole in the top, no one's going to pick it up like this. I don't think. Not yet. Okay, so that's design feature number one. Here's my fancy toolbox. You get takeout. You can replace your toolbox pretty often. So I usually cut these off by marking the bottom with a needle tool. And then you can use dental floss. This is an unpaid endorsement. This is a Dirty Girl's wire tool. If you like to throw pots with thin bottoms, this is the absolute best tool for cutting things off the wheel, because you can get almost, you can just have really thin bottoms. I'm using it now because the thicker wire tools will kink if you pull them through things. This I can just fit in here. And again, you can use dental floss or string instead. I'm going to hold one finger steady and just pull the other finger following that line. And that's going to cut it off flat. So if you've been cutting things off the hump, thinking that you're cutting straight, this is a great method to do that. There's a bottom on this. I used to try not to do that, but these will also deform sometimes when I pick them up. And then they warp more in the kiln. So it's actually helpful if you can leave, if you think of this as a bonus, if you have clay that's left at the bottom, you can always cut it out, but until then, your pot retains its shape. And you can hold it like this and move it around, and that's fine. What's left here on the wheel is a footprint of that pot. This is, again, things that smart people will do that are stupid things. I have seen people put candles on deck railings without any support underneath, and then the wax can melt and presumably catch on fire. So I always make a little dish, and what's left underneath that cut-off pot is a footprint of exactly the size that it needs to be, or at least of the diameter of the piece I've just cut off. So I'm making a saucer that's going to be just a little bit wider than that. And this will, right, it'll fit right in there. So I throw these in pairs, and I'll usually throw a couple extra saucers because something always breaks or isn't quite right. So again, I'm marking that with a needle tool. Sliding the thin wire into that cut.
Can you tell us what clay you're using, what temperature you fired to?
So I fired a cone 6 in oxidation. Actually, so in theory, I fired a cone 6. My witness cones never match. Never match. Yeah. So I recently replaced the kiln elements. So I fire a lot with standard 266. I don't know if anyone here uses that. It's a dark brown clay, lots of gunk in it, and it bloats if I fired a cone 6. So I fired a cone 5 with anywhere between 15-minute and 45-minute. I don't do 45 minutes anymore, but I'll do like a 15 to 20-minute hold at the end. That seems to bring cone 6 down. I recently replaced the kiln elements in my kiln. Imagine that, everything is hotter. So I still need to do some adjusting because things are overfiring a little. But that's not the norm. Okay, so when I pull these off, usually they come up reasonably flat. If they bend a little, you toss them on a wear board. I'll clean them up. If you have trouble with your little saucers S-cracking, let them dry upside down. And so the S-cracking is happening because the sides are drying faster than the bottom. There's more exposure to air. And if you flip you trim your pots if you want to trim them, or just clean them up. Let them dry upside down so that this is getting more air. What happens is the part that dries first stays put, right? So if the bottom needs to dry, it's going to move and you're going to get a crack. Okay. So drying these upside down is basically taking care of my cracking problems. Okay. So that's how I throw these parts. And that's all I wanted to show you was how to get the saucer to fit the pot. Or yeah. There. And then it goes back to the bag. So there are a variety of ways you can cut things and things. I really admire the work of artists who manage, they'll have these really ornate geometric designs. And I think it's Turn Studio if you follow on Instagram, right? So he measures each pot individually and uses computer-aided design and prints out, I don't know what the, like, using Cricut, and cuts out these stencils. He has like animated zoetrope, like horses running and moons spinning and stuff. It's incredible work. And my experience, so I don't use computer-aided design, and I really admire that really geometric work, but I can hardly cut a straight line. I'm not good at anything that needs to be really geometric, where people look at it and say, this is geometric and everything is even. I am not the person for cutting that, because I mess up, and when it has to be really geometric, you notice the messed up spots. So I don't do that. But I found other ways to design things that I think look geometric, but they have some looseness to them. And I like the looseness, and I like the sense of geometry. So now what I'm going to set up here is how I save my neck. This is a jack, a scissors jack. You can get these on Amazon. I can send you the one that I bought. Right? So I can lower this or raise this, and it's great. And I think that I'm going to add. This is good. I want to think about how I'm holding my neck, especially if you do this for hours and hours. And we sometimes do this for hours and hours. It can, right? We want to preserve our bodies. So I have this.
Did you say scissor jack?
Scissors. Right? So it goes down, it goes up. It's great. And I used to, and I might do that tonight too, I will stack whatever I need to, like upside down buckets or whatever to get a height. Or I'll stand up and work on I have it's like an old lectern in my studio. I use it for storage. I'll stand up and cut with the pots up high instead of down low. It's better for my neck. Okay, so the easiest designs, this is, so I made these yesterday, and they feel like they're not too dry yet. So this one is cut off. I'll just take a sponge to clean up the cut.
So do you cut off the bottom the next day?
If I didn't, so this I just cut it off the hump and didn't have any bottom. So I like to use a variety of hole cutting tools. I have a bunch. You probably know the Kemper hole cutting tools with these brass tips. Used to be that the glue was pretty cheap. My students tell me the glue is no longer quite as cheap, and it's hard to get the handles off. But I like them without the handles on them, because I can work up close to the pot. I don't have this thing hanging off of it. I can get into tight spaces. So if I have things that are, like you mentioned the Bridges show, I had a Klein bottle. We can talk about Klein bottles. Anyone know what a Klein bottle is? Okay, so I made a Klein bottle out of 2 Tauruses. And I wanted to carve holes all over it, because there's a guy out who makes Klein bottles that he sells out of glass, and you can see the inside. It's a mathematical thing. They're really cool. And I wanted to cut holes all over the whole thing, but I wouldn't have been able to get the tools into to cut the holes. So this is a tool without the handle. I am now recently a fan of the Bill Van Gilder hole cutting tool. This is just a trowel, basically. And you can cut holes of any size with this, as long as it's not going to go all the way. You know, if I want a big hole at the top of the pot, I might have a problem with that. They're something like $12 on his website, and if you do a group order, then you save on shipping. It's environmentally friendly. Bill Van Gilder. Bill Van Gilder. So I can just cut a whole bunch of holes in this. The only issue with this is that the holes are beveled, because this is beveled, right? So as you go in, it's going to be a bigger cut on the outside than it is on the inside, which for a shape like this is fine. So what I would do, this piece apparently is a little bit wet for cutting holes in at the moment. I would just go around the top first, because this is going to dry faster than anything else. So I want to make sure I don't want to do that last, because by the time I get up there, I might not be able to cut it. Then I would cut this circle against the bottom, and then I would fill in the middle. I have no self-restraint, so I have pictures, I think, in the magazine article. I just cover everything with holes because it's fun and I can't stop, and any space on the surface is room for another hole, so I just cover the whole thing with holes. I encourage you to find alternatives because it's good to find alternatives to covering everything. I'm going to kind of zip through things because I know we're running a little behind.
It's only 8.
It's only, okay. Things get more complicated.
10 minutes late.
Okay. The other shape, so circles, when you cut circles and things, circles are very strong, durable shapes. So there aren't really cracks, right? You don't have any angles in a circle. So they tend to hold up, and if you put your piece down a little bit hard accidentally, it tends not to break if you've carved it with circles. Then we get into things that have angles, and then things start to break. So the other shape that I can do is a leaf shape. And what I like to do for those, so this is just going to be a slice and a slice. And I realize that you cannot really see what I'm doing. Oh, the other essential tool. Where did I put the other essential tool? It's a pair of reading glasses.
Are they on your head?
Those are my real glasses. Here they are. Okay. Because I can't see anymore. Oh. Yeah. So we're going to protect our eyes too. So what I'll do is carve out, I like to do 5-point stars with leaf shapes. And I'll turn this around in just a second. So there's no, I can't see you. So there's a 5-leaf star, okay, and I will put these in assorted places. There's a night light there with a not great bulb, but that's the gist of this design.
When you're inserting the blade, are you aiming straight or is it at an angle at all?
Let's find out. It's pretty straight. Okay. Oh, I'm cutting with a Fiskars finger detail knife. I think it's probably designed to be held like this, but I never hold it that way.
So do you leave the little pieces in there for support?
Yes. So I leave them in there for 2 reasons. One is that when I'm making other cuts near these first cuts, they provide some counter pressure. And the other reason is that things dry really fast. And if I pop these out, the clay dries a lot faster than if I leave them in. So sometimes I'll use that to my advantage if I'm working with pieces that are too wet to be cutting, but I'm impatient, and so I want to start carving. I'll take the pieces out. Do you all remember being in elementary school? Are you an elementary school teacher? Okay, so you know when you fold up a piece of paper, like you fold it into a...
Hot dog hamburger.
Is it hot dog hamburger?
Hot dog's when you fold it so it's long when it's done. Hamburger is it's like a rectangle.
Okay, hot dog. So we're doing that, and then you cut opposite lines like this, and then you get this thing that stretches, right? So clay does that too. When you cut, so we're not going to fold clay. You just look so shocked.
You said elementary school and it triggered me.
Oh, sorry. If you are, so we're going to get to a design where I have basically a lot of alternating lines going down, and the whole pot will kind of do this. And as long as the clay is soft, you can sometimes get it to stand back up, and then you kind of hold it and you take your heat gun and you spray it, you blow your heat gun on it to stiffen it up. That's really kind of, it's a weird thing to see in clay, that it can function like a spring. And then it breaks, right, if you don't catch it. So that's a situation where if I start to see things wanting to do that, I will pull out the pieces so that it dries faster, and then it will hold itself up. And it tends, these things they tend not to sag when I'm firing them, with some exceptions, and I'll talk about those. What I'm hoping is that I can get through an entire one of these and then do the big reveal, which is to pop all of these things out. I don't think I'll do it with this shape though.
As far as the blade, do you ever work with the other designs, other shapes? Blade? No, just that one.
Of the blade, you mean the knife tip?
Yes. The blade itself. Do you ever switch it out for a different shape? No.
Do you?
Yeah, there's one that's meant for like circles, and it's like a crescent kind of style that I find a little bit easier with circles. I was wondering if you ever.
Haven't ever seen it.
Okay.
Cool, good to know that though. Okay, so what I would then do after starting these, I will put, I'm going to just get a bunch of starbursts in here. So I'm going to continue adding another layer of leaf shapes. And these leaves can be, they're not all the same. And I think it'd be really cool if I could make them all the same, but I can't. And so I'm going to say that I really like them not being all the same. It adds it looks organic. So I'll just kind of expand them out. And once you get to this next set of leaves going around these starbursts, then you just kind of fit them in wherever you can, because you can't continue to, like things spread out too much as you expand, and you have to tuck other pieces in. So I would fill this whole thing up until I get to the edges, and I'll sometimes put straight lines in at the edges. Sometimes if I have empty spaces, I will cut out the empty spaces because that's how I am. I just like holes in everything. And then when everything's cut, you stick your tool in and you just start pulling things out. Okay. So that's just the leaf starburst pattern.
So I have another question. When you're doing your pieces, do you make all your pieces about the same, or do you make large pieces and small pieces in one?
I tend to use everything is on the same scale.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't make things larger. Is that true? I don't. Yeah. And that might just be a visual choice. I just haven't thought about doing that. It would probably work. Okay, and then I thought maybe I should have one other, I should have things that aren't always just repeating patterns. So I'd plan out leaf and vine patterns, because I can do leaves, so I can do leaves on stems, and that can be fun. And I would spend hours figuring out how to connect everything, right? So this is, once you get past, I can just put another shape that's the same shape in, and I'll fit it in someplace. Once you start getting into things that are a little bit more pictorial, I don't know, it takes a little bit more planning. This bowl, I will pass it around, is an example of what can go awry. So we are moving on to the leaf and vine pattern. So this is supposed to look like a bunch of vines with leaves attached. I don't know if that's what it looks like. You can look at it more closely. And this is the part that will cut you. There is, where this happened, there is a sharp piece here, and I'm serious, it can cut you because it's really sharp. So be careful touching it around here, but you will see the obvious spot. And maybe we can just pass that around and you can tell me what happened there and why it happened.
Is this a quiz?
What's that? It's a quiz. It's a lesson. So Jet kind of arranged the white erase board and the pen magically works.
Yeah, I only left you the pens at work.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so the idea here is what I want going up this piece is like I want a bunch of vines following up this. So I could draw all the vines in. Or I could start by carving some leaves. So this is my algorithm. I'm sharing my algorithm with you. It took me, I don't know how long it took me to figure this out, but once I figured it out, I can now freehand cut these things, and I don't need to plan in advance, other than very loosely. I just need to know the algorithm. And I love that I just really enjoy that it works. So can anyone answer what went awry with that? Like why did that bowl start, why did it get melty and collapse there?
It's not connected.
The leaves need to be connected. So everything needs to be, and you'll see this when you have it in your hands, everything needs to be connected to everything else. If there is too much empty space, your structure is going to fall apart. So I'm going to cut the leaves that I already know how to cut, because I've cut a lot of them. And then I'm going to plan to connect leaves to other leaves. So these are just me cutting leaf shapes, the same way I just cut the leaves here. They're just arranged a little differently. I haven't removed them yet. And then I need the next set of leaves to be connected. So these leaves will be connected. I mean, conceptually, they'll be near each other. This is a very large 2-light holder with very tiny holes in it. And when I draw it like this, it sure looks like descending lines of leaves, right?
Were you just counting?
I was trying to make my picture realistic, like because you're missing the part over here.
Oh, I see.
I'm just there. I don't know what's sticking out. Okay. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll plan all of these out. I want to draw on that, but that's not a white erase board, right? We could do the same. Let's see. We could do the same thing with a plate or a bowl. I could start a bunch of these around the edge.
Do you go in a line or do you go across to have symmetry? Like do that one and then do the one across from it?
No. What I'll do is I'll just start carving, and then I'll get back around to the beginning, and I'll have space for just one extra leaf or something. You know, something will mess up the pattern, or the space will be too big, so I'll make a set of 3 leaves, or because I never count. I'm the sort of person who puts handles on mugs, and then when I look at them, like the handles go like this, because I make the attachment spots, but I forget to actually check that they're straight. I don't count. I don't plan. I just go for it. And I think that's actually one of the things that I like about these is that they don't look meticulously precise, but they still look geometric. Okay, so I've got that one set up. Got this one set up. And then what I do, in my mind's eye, I imagine where the vines are, and I start cutting around the leaves. So I'm going to show you this by first drawing in the cuts, and then I'll pull all the pieces out and I'll color them in, and that will be where the pieces are gone, if that makes sense. So I'm going to start by cutting here. And I'll just remove this piece right away. Okay. So that's a piece that I have cut. I'll remove the leaves too. Okay, so all of those have been removed already. And I'll go around the whole top row, doing the same thing. And then I'll come back and cut the next level. And as long as I don't accidentally cut into my leaf holes, the part that is white is where we still have clay. Is this making sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do you do anything to smooth
Yeah, so I am using Iceman. It's a Kentucky Mudworks clay that is, it's very similar to Little Loafers, which I'm missing Little Loafers.
Yeah.
I'm missing it. But it has no grog, so you can wipe it with a sponge. And then I take a paintbrush and I do a lot of things. But that's what I do, and I just work my way down, and then I pop everything out. And when you have a form that gets wider in the middle, sometimes these, not the way I've drawn it here, but sometimes the spaces, the leaves get farther and farther apart as you go down the piece. Sometimes I'll just add an extra leaf if I need something to help connect it. So if the gap here is way too big for a, I'm going to have just a huge gaping hole from that piece that I cut out. Well, I can add another leaf there, as long as it connects to something else. So then I have to figure out what it's going to connect to. So there's some troubleshooting. This is the advanced technique. So the introductory technique is just try it all the way down and be consistent, going all the way down. The advanced technique is have your forms bulge out so that the leaves get farther apart and come up with solutions for filling in those spaces. So I will sometimes have vines that go down that far and then they hit a leaf and the stem doesn't continue because, oops, it just doesn't. Okay, I'm going to do this, I think I'm going to do this on a bowl so that you can see it better. I'm assuming that this is a little tiny for following along.
Going back to the paintbrush, do you reinforce everything or just where you think it's going to crack?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good point. So when you carve leaves, when I carve leaves, I'm aiming for my leaves to be like this. But what usually happens is my leaves look like this, or like that. Right? I'm like stopping and starting at exactly the right spot. Or I'll have leaves that look like that because I didn't make it all the way to the end, and when I pull it out, it just leaves a little nub of clay there. That's what I'll use the paintbrush on, just to smooth those out. If you have, I call these seed cracks, like once you set that up, if you let it dry like that and you ding it, it is much more likely to break. I say that like I believe it.
Is that what happened with the bowl?
That is not what happened with the bowl. What happened with the bowl is that I had some leaves that were not attached to anything. And so there's a big gap, there's weight, it's pushing down, there's not any structural integrity to it. What does it take? Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like, so this is reinforced vertically and it's reinforced horizontally. Things are at angles, but the pattern is a vertical and horizontal reinforcement. I think you can imagine if you're just carving rectangles out of this and you make a really long horizontal rectangle, like at some point your rectangle is going to sag. Because have any of you made yarn bowls? Right, and you cut out that swirl and then your bowl does that in the kiln. So there are limits. I haven't tested the limits because my leaves have always been small enough to provide enough, except in that bowl. I learned a lot from that bowl. In terms of how I would kind of finish something like this up though, I've got clay goobers on here. I can just wipe them. And because it's grog-free clay, they clean up really nicely on the outside. I would wipe it on the inside too. All of that is going to shove some clay goobers into the holes, and then I just go around with a needle tool or a paintbrush and clean it up. So it's amazing the difference that wiping something off is going to make to how finished the surface looks. I have also learned that everybody probably remembers the moment when you realized that when you ding something with your fingernail, you glaze over it and no one's ever going to see that. You don't have to fix all of those dings. It's a similar sort of thing with this. As long as the surface is smooth and isn't going to cut anyone, glaze covers up a lot of things. So, okay, I want to do a bowl.
When you push the cutouts, do you push them in or do you bring them out?
That depends on concavity or convexness of the piece that I don't know where that question came from. Yeah, so it depends on which side of the piece I'm working on. So something like the tea light holders, they come out usually because you're cutting in, and usually it's a little bit wider on the outside than it is on the inside. If I am cutting bowls, if I'm cutting them from the outside, it's the same thing because that's where the curve is. If I'm cutting from the inside, I might pull them out from the inside. We'll find out.
When you do your little thing, the top of it is such a magnet, so small, that if you push it in, they get stuck in the bottom and then it's how do you
If they're closed, so usually what these are they're covers on saucers. So here are two different pieces. So this is made with just it's a flat bottom. It's just one piece. You can buy copper wire and make a little cradle for this so that you don't have to, like, this burns out and you've got this little cup full of melted wax in the bottom. You can't tip it because it's going to spill. But if you have a little copper holder, you can get that out and it looks pretty. So that would be an issue for this one, but usually the tea light covers go on you have a saucer and a cover, and you don't stick your finger in when it's hot.
I'm talking about when you're cutting pieces and you're pushing them in or out. Lots of times I've had the problem because they get stuck at the bottom. There's no bottom.
This doesn't have a bottom.
But the other one.
The other one does. So I'm cutting these. They are not sticky. Like by the time I am. In fact, why don't I pass one of these around? So the one that I was putting holes in, just like circular holes. This is. You weren't up close, so you couldn't see it, but I was getting loopers on the outside. It doesn't feel super wet, but it's still wet enough to produce loopers. That's the technical term. So, starting around the top and going around the bottom, that's probably already going to dry it out just from that sort of contact. So by the time I'm maybe halfway through that, I'll start getting nice clean cuts. So these, the lesson is to be patient and wait for things to be the right dryness.
And what is that? Is that leather hard? Or?
It is leather hard. Sometimes if you are impatient, it's soft leather hard. And you just spend way more time doing it. That's all. I mean, it still works, but
When it's soft leather hard, it's more clean up.
soft leather hard is more clean up. So the different. I mean, at some point it gets too hard to. It gets too stiff to cut easily. The other thing about this is you're making thin pieces of clay. So you will make some of these with thick clay, and you will see what it's like trying to cut holes into thick clay, and you'll make your pots thinner. So what was my point going to be about that? It depends on the thickness and the dryness, but if they're thin enough, you can just wipe them with a sponge, and that will rehydrate sufficiently that you can keep cutting. So, another one of the joys of working with garage-free clay. So I'm going to demonstrate for you how to not count things in advance. I'm going to do this leaf and vine pattern with slightly larger leaves. One of the things I've been doing recently with these pieces is intentionally varying. So it's still algorithmic. So instead of doing, I used to do like a single leaf all the way around, or a pair of leaves all the way around. And I look at the vines themselves look wiggly, right? Because those are loose cuts. But around the top, everything looks kind of stiff. So I have been trying to shake things up by alternating between 2 leaves and 3 leaves, which forces some changes into the vines. Accommodate. And I'm not really careful about, I always need, I've made hundreds of these, and I always mean to be more careful about paying attention to the size of the leaves when I start, and then I never do. I will say I'm relatively new to Iceman with these pieces, and it's not as deliciously smooth cutting as Little Loafers.
You mentioned that you work with 266 clay.
Yeah.
That one, it has fine rock in it, correct?
Yeah.
So when you're wiping it away or just cleaning it up, do you find that the rock comes forward, or is it too fine to feel a difference?
So I actually don't make these with 266.
Okay.
I make other pots. When I was here 2 years ago, I did these 266. I don't know if anyone else, some of you were here then. I do completely different pots with that clay. The reason is that when you cut holes in things, what you see inside through the holes is darkness, unless you have a candle on the inside. So, or another light source. So if you have dark clay and then you have holes, I find that, and so I glaze these with light colored glazes as well instead of dark glazes, because I want to see the contrast between the holes and the surface. So I don't use 266 for it. Jet posted on her Instagram page
Oh, yeah.
one of my most recent adventures, which is to combine my swoosh pots, which are a clay body with slip on it. You throw a cylinder, you add slip, you put a pattern in the slip, and then you stretch the whole thing out so you can't touch the outside. And I started combining those with carved pieces, and that's its own fun and interesting thing. And I had a reason for bringing that up in terms of 266. I don't think I usually do those in the swoosh pots in 266. I don't think I'm going to try that combination with that clay.
Do you do a fixed rim just because it's your style or for support?
I think I do it for support, probably in style. It looks intentional, and I like the intentionality of the look. It also helps me mark kind of edges.
You ever cut yourself with your hands?
I know.
Yeah, I meant to comment on that. When I cut myself, it is because I miss aim and have a finger in the way. It's not cutting, it's because I pick up the tool and stab myself accidentally. So what I'm doing is I'm feeling with my finger, I'm poking through with the tool. I can feel it there, and my fingers I am barely poking it. I talk about safety, I'm barely poking this all the way through. And I'm just using my fingers to kind of note where the tool is going. And it's slow.
So you're not supporting the bowl itself, just
I am providing some counter pressure, but I'm not like guiding the tool, and I'm not slicing through myself. Let's see, how do you describe that? Sometimes I will, like you can move your finger along with the knife tip. I can see that these are getting smaller, so I'll make this one bigger. And it doesn't really matter. Wow, that's a big difference, isn't it? Okay. I want to make that line up a little bit better. Let's make this pair bigger. They're leaves. These aren't all the same size, right?
they're natural.
Okay, so I should have, the way I've been doing this, I'm up to a place where I should have 3. And I should have room for 3, so that's exciting. Oops. So when you make mistakes, thin clay is really, actually I'm just going to make that a double, because I feel like I'd rather have a larger leaf here than tiny ones to fit in 3. Totally fine. When you make mistakes, thin pieces of clay are really easy to repair compared to, if I had I knock a hole in this bowl and I want to fix that, that's going to be a bit of a pain to fill in and seal and hide. But if I've got these thin strips of clay holding everything together and I accidentally cut through one of those, I can just make a tiny little coil, get it wet, stick it on, maybe do both sides, I don't know, and just press it in there. That's enough to hold that together because it's just a tiny narrow little piece of clay in the bowl, and adding a little water to that is really a lot of water for that particular spot. Does that make sense? Right? So things are relatively easy to fix, I think. Okay, now I'm going to do the second layer of leaves. So I've got my first set prepped, and we were talking about forms that go out, expanding, and so the distance between leaves increases. When you have a form like a bowl, the distance between leaves decreases. So we'll see what happens as I get lower down.
Are you making the leaves smaller?
Apparently not. Not yet. Probably will. Is that where I want that one? Yeah. And the other fun, I mean, I really enjoy this. So I can change the angles of the leaves. If I need to fill in a space, I can shift it over a little bit. I can flatten it a little bit. If I have it more sideways, like this one that I'm putting in now, I'm making a little bit more, I think I am, making a little more sideways compared to the other ones. It fills space differently. It's still the same process, but if I'm worried about creating weirdly large gaps, I can just make the leaf a little bigger, or I can change the angle. All sorts of things can happen. Okay, so we talked about how to fix things. Sometimes if I slice through something accidentally here too early, I'll patch it right away. Other times I won't worry about it, and I'll patch it if it seems to be a problem.
With patching it, do you normally just brush with a brush or work over the line? Okay.
Yeah, sometimes I'll pop the leaf out and fix something, and then put the leaf back in.
Could I ask you a question about glaze?
Yeah.
Is it a good time? Okay. Do you find it at all tricky glazing pierced work?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. It always seems to just settle in the crevices.
The tiniest holes, yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes it doesn't. So,
It gets glued.
yeah.
Any tip on that?
So, what happens when you glaze these things is you've got really thin strips of clay. If I were to glaze this bowl, I would, if I wanted to just dip the whole thing, glaze hits the outside and glaze hits the inside, and then I pull it out of the bucket, shake it off, and let it dry, right? With this, glaze hits the inside and it hits the outside and it hits every single edge between every leaf, and we're talking about, pieces of strips of clay that are this wide and probably thinner than that in their thickness. That's a lot of water for these bowls to hold onto. So you experiment with finding a glaze that is conducive to this sort of work. The glaze that I have on these pieces is called Ronald's Minty Matte. I found it on Glazy. I was looking for a substitute for a glaze called Cornflower, and it was a similar blue, but it's a little variegated, and I liked that. And it is perfect in every way, so as a glaze. So it doesn't settle, it doesn't hard pan, and it can sit for 6 months, and I can stir it up again, or let's say 3 months. I'll stir it up again, and more often than not, I don't have to sieve it again. And so these glaze, I don't know if you've had the experience where the glaze will actually, it cracks right as it dries, and it looks like it's peeling away. And I used to very carefully smooth things back and hope that in smoothing the glaze back, it didn't pop it off. And with this glaze, you don't have to do that. It wants to, as it melts, it wants to adhere to the clay. So instead of falling off, it fills in gaps. So I just use that glaze.
Okay.
There was another glaze that just came, I don't know if you're on Ceramic Arts Daily, if you get their newsletters or their daily posts. There was one on making holiday ornaments, like Christmas ornaments.
Okay.
And they published a glaze recipe called Nan's Clear. And it's there's one version where, so the base glaze is Nance clear. And you can add copper and you get a greenish glaze, and they add a mason stain to get what they call lilac, but looks blue in the article. So I'm thinking that looks like a really promising glaze to try for these. I have no idea, but I will try that at some point. So you just have to find a glaze that is friendly for this kind of work.
I think I find it extra challenging when I'm trying to do less organic but more geometric shapes, like a square, and it always rounds the corners for me when I'm trying to keep it straight.
Yeah, and I figure with shapes like leaves, they can be all different shapes. And that, again, I am really challenged trying to get things to be geometrically exact. So if you aren't worried about things being geometrically exact, that's another solution. Which might not help for what you want to do. So you can see, I think with the row just above, I was talking about how you could change the angle of the leaves. So I made a whole bunch of leaves that were a little bit more sideways, and the consequence is that as I'm coming down and around the next, it affects, it works its way through. Okay, well that has been exciting to watch all of that. I'm going to start cutting out the lines from that. Actually, what I should do first, and I'm going to do this first because the rim's going to dry before I
So
get it in the pot.
just to clarify, when you're saying you're cutting out the vine, you're cutting out the space around the vine.
I am cutting the
You're
space
leaving
around.
the vine in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for knowing what I mean, but not what I say.
Have you tried Starworks 6 yet?
So I have, yes, so in fact the pot that you posted, that one is Starworks Cone 6 Brown. It's fantastic for these swoosh pots.
Yeah.
So I got it because, so a friend's son is getting married, she wanted one of my swoosh pots. It's a beautiful vision, so she has, guests are going to put, she wants it to not look like an urn, because it's a wedding gift, and she's going to have guests put well wishes inside of it, and she's a jeweler, and so she's going to make a chain that goes inside of it too, and she wanted the clay to be dug from North Carolina. So I went to Starworks, because that's, high water clays, I assume, were mostly North Carolina, but they don't exist anymore. So I went to Star and said, this is what I need, and all they had in stock was brown, and it's great. It's like, for stretching, for like plasticity, it's fantastic. And then I carved the necks of those, because she not only wanted a swoosh pot, she also wanted the necks carved, which keeps it from looking like an urn, because the ashes would fall out. And that worked, it worked fine. I couldn't wipe it the way I would want to wipe it to smooth it out. So that was a little more complicated.
The reason I'm asking is I looked up that clay that you're using, and it doesn't say, you say it doesn't have any grog, but the Starwhite 6 has malite, and I'm wondering if malite, I know it's not grog, but it is grog, if that would still be really smooth.
I've made these also with like speckled brownstone clays.
It's just a little more.
It's just a little more coarse, and they're getting glazed anyway. It's just not as, there's something really rewarding about smoothing things out and not having not having a groggy surface. But it is possible to deal with it.
Well, I got a question about this ladder thing that you're pressing your palm. What's that called?
This is a scissors jack.
Say it again?
Scissors jack. Scissors jack.
Okay.
Do they come in different sizes?
They do come in different sizes. And I can't remember why I chose this size in particular. I learned about these, so Kristen Kiefer has a PSA on her website about back health. And if you haven't read it, you should go, you just Google Kristen Kiefer back health, or PSA. Kristen Kiefer PSA. She had a back injury. She also worked, I'm trying to think of who the potter is. Is it John Glick?
The stand-up guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who had a back injury. And the time that you want to think about protecting, so I had childhood scoliosis, I was in a brace for 2 years. And I have been protective of my back for most of my life. And so I haven't, like pottery, I have not done things that I could injure my back. I have not done things as a potter that could injure my back because I have been like thinking ahead about that. And I sometimes will throw standing up, I will sometimes throw sitting down. Read Kristen Kiefer's advice on back health because you don't want to have to figure that out after you have injured yourself. You want to figure it out before you injure yourself and protect yourself. And I'm talking about this because someone asked a question. What was the question?
About the scissors jack.
The scissors jack, yeah. So I learned about the scissors jack on her website because she not only talks about back health, but she also talks about protecting your neck and other parts of your body. Being careful when you wedge so that you protect your wrists. And you read horror stories when people say, I trashed my wrists wedging and had to have surgery twice or for each hand or whatever. And there are ways that you can protect your body so that doesn't happen. So that's my, and so we put this wheel up on bricks, right? We have a room over it. We have 2 wheel rooms at Claymakers in Durham, and for whatever reason, people always take the blocks out in one of the wheel rooms. They're always taking the risers out. We have some made out of wood and otherwise we use bricks. And I can just, I can see 5 years from now, students having back problems.
Do you normally prefer one brick under each leg, or what's your typical throwing?
So I would probably want like a brick and a half under this. Two is a little high, but I would rather have it higher than lower. Anyone else has anyone here had back problems from throwing? Does anyone throw standing or?
I threw standing, and I was so into it that I was standing on one foot, and I did it all day, and now I can tell when it's going to rain again.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. You have to be careful not to trade one injury for another.
Yeah, it took a really long time, and that hurts.
Yeah. I did that too, and so that's when I switched back to sitting. But I have friends who put the wheels up on. They put the pedal up higher, so they're using their hand with the pedal.
Do you feel like this play body is pretty close to little loafers, or?
It's reasonably, I think it's probably the closest I'm going to find. Playmakers also tried B-mix, and we had all sorts of problems with B-mix. And I don't know if that was because, that's Laguna, right? I don't want to diss B-mix, but I think it might have been that they had to produce a lot quickly to make up for high water, and some things were going awry, but I'm finding Iceman much easier to work with. Okay. So I can be wiggly with these lines, or I can make them all the same. Okay, now I'm down to the next layer. And here I see what I can fit in. Oops. Okay. Hold on.
You might have shared this already, I'm not sure, but at what point do you start taking out the cutouts?
When I'm all done. Yeah, sorry. I would do it now just so you can see. How are we doing on time?
I'm fine, but it's 8:45.
Okay, I'll be really fast. The rest of this.
We don't have to.
We have to end it by 10.
You have to be out at 9:30,
Yeah.
out of the building? Okay.
Yeah, we'll clean up while you're cutting and just
Okay.
work around you.
Going back to the scissors job again, where did you get it?
So you can get them on Amazon. I'm pretty sure, I think that I looked around for sources that weren't Amazon. I can't remember. But I will look up it might have been Amazon. I'll look it up.
This is the very first time I've actually used this, and I think it's really awesome that you brought it in and showed it to us.
Yeah. I mean, it helps. I mean, so right now my arm is a little tired from being up.
What is it normally used for? Like that, like hold the stuff up? Or is it for like woodworking, like holding?
This is a lab tool. It's for a scientific lab. And this one is like 6 inches by 6 inches. They come in a variety of sizes. Okay, almost down to the bottom.
Did you say yours was a 6 by 6?
6 by 6.
Do you have a second size that you approach out, or is this your main?
This is the only one I have. So I'm cutting a couple extra holes. I should have cut more in, but time is of the essence, so. Rushing through the end here. Okay, I think that I can start pulling these things out. This is the fun part. And we were talking about, do they come out the back or the front? These apparently come out the back. And this is where you notice things that are, you notice that seed cracks. It's kind of magic that these things don't fall apart.
So you cut them out from the top to the bottom.
What's that?
Cut them out from the top to the bottom.
Yes. The reason for that
All the way
is,
around
what's that?
and all the way around.
Sometimes I'll just go, so the leaves are easier to pull out than the other pieces usually. So I will usually start with the leaves. And I will, so what I'm doing on this, just to illustrate the point, you can also go straight down. What's that? Thanks. So this is pretty quick. So what I did at the bottom, I haven't cut the bottom pieces all the way around yet. What I probably would want to do with this is add, I mean, it's too late. So once you miss an opportunity for a leaf, there is no going back, right? You made the slices, that's it.
Can I pick up one of those leaves to see how soft the clay is?
Is that softer than you were expecting or far harder?
Almost.
their baby powder. So it's like
I only y'all are welcome to come feel these pieces. Or grab another one, pass it around.
For any of your pieces, do you cover with plastic? Does it take time?
Yeah. I mean, I don't, so usually I don't have plastic on the, like I wouldn't put plastic around the bottom while I'm working on the top. But if it gets too dry, I will wipe with the sponge. Oh, I can't hear you. Okay, so I want to know, is this dry or is it wet? Sam, is that better than you thought it would be or dry?
I'm more fascinated by the clay body itself. It's very fascinating.
Yeah, so Iceman, does anyone use Iceman? So it does this, what is it that settles in the bottom of the water bucket? Is that like talc? What is that?
bentonite.
Bentonite? Bentonite.
Isn't that what makes things hard pan?
No,
Like,
it
the
keeps it,
opposite.
you add bentonite to glazes to keep things from settling out.
Oh, then I'm wrong. I don't know.
I think. This is Iceman.
Bentonite is thick to the tropic.
And Iceman. And so you get the, like the cement, it's a non-Newtonian fluid.
Yeah, that's bentonite.
That's bentonite.
Bentonite is non-Newtonian and thick to the tropic.
Huh.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I feel like edge knows the answer to everything. What causes hard panning in the bottom of a sludge bucket? Is it bentonite or what was the question?
Yeah. What is it that settles out of the slip?
What's the question?
The Iceman slip. In the bottom of the bucket when you throw it Iceman, it didn't happen with little loafers, so it's not little loafers, but you get that non-Newtonian fluid cement at the bottom of the bucket. What is that?
I get that with porcelain, I don't know.
It's, yeah, it's the same thing. What is it? So I've been digging it out under the bottom of the bucket because
Because bentonite is like what I heard, maybe I'm wrong. Bentonite is like the thing that gets in all the cracks between the particles that keeps it from doing something. And I thought it was non-Newtonian, thixotropic. It doesn't want water, right?
well, it's probably a flaw. So I always get my partner is a material scientist, right? And so he understands flocculants and deflocculants. And I think that potters use the word flocculation and deflocculation in different ways than the material scientists do. I think we use it in the opposite
But I thought you do add bentonite to a glaze if you have a problem with burning.
Oh,
That it was a certain.
okay, maybe I'm thinking the opposite. I don't know.
Anyway, there's
that
some-
doesn't work, then you add Epsom salts, and if that doesn't work,
Throw it away.
yeah, right?
Me too.
Find another glaze.
But you can get a sense that this, this is methodical and meditative.
Do you feel like after you remove things and like 2 days later, it shifts shape a little bit?
It does shrink.
You dry them uncovered?
What's that?
You dry them uncovered?
So in terms of drying, I will usually dry them covered because
break it
there's
down,
cleanup
everyone's
that has to happen. And you can fix dings while the clay is still wet, but once the clay dries, like you can still soften it, you can always go back over it with a sponge and smooth out bumps, but you cannot repair cracks as easily. So I'll let it dry. Covered so that I can do that.
Oh, well, maybe.
One other thing that I'm doing is I pull these pieces out. I am pushing them down against the wall and then pulling them out.
That's what I'm really interested in. Can you explain that again?
Okay, so I'm going to take out this leaf, right? And I could just shove that leaf out, and if it's attached to any place, it's going to kind of grab the clay that it's attached to and remove that clay. So I'm going to push this tool in and kind of aim it at the intersection, and then pull. So I'm pushing kind of down and then pulling it out.
Okay.
And that seems to help keep things attached.
It's soluble sodium is the next side.
It's left side.
Yeah, it's not It's okay.
Anyway, we have ice now. I have been digging that out of the bottom of the bucket because I don't want my clay to be short.